Welcome to my world, bitch.
Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez and you are on a new episode of The Final Cut. Today I'm going to be reviewing 2003's Freddy vs. Jason. Now, I know this isn't the best review to go over, but it is a culmination of the Nightmare on Elm Street series and the Friday the 13th series. And I figure since this was the 13th episode, I would do something that would be oriented with Jason in some way. So I'm going to review Freddy vs. Jason to kick off into my Nightmare on Elm Street reviews. So, Freddy vs. Jason. Of course, it stars Robert Englund as the infamous Freddy Krueger. And then, of course, Ken Kurazinger as Jason Voorhees. It has Kelly Rowland, Monica Keena, Jason Ritter, Chris Marquette, Brennan Fletcher, Catherine Isabel, and Zach Ward starring in the picture. It's directed by Ronnie Yu. In case anybody doesn't know, Ronnie Yu also directed Bride of Chucky and Formula 51 starring Samuel L. Jackson. Now, I like those films, and he also did Jet Li's Fearless. I like all those films, but here it kind of takes a different approach. There is some gore, there is some scares, there's a lot of stuff that's from the Friday the 13th series, but it's kind of taken more of an action film route instead of the traditional horror suspense like the Nightmare on Elm Street series or Friday the 13th. Yes, there's a lot of bloodshed like Friday the 13th, but this is more action-oriented, and Freddy and Jason do not fight until the last 20 minutes of the film. But ultimately, it was a long production. Freddy vs. Jason was in production hell for a long period of time. Friday the 13th was owned by Paramount, and they did the first couple of films, before New Line Cinema had the rights and made the last couple of Friday the 13th films. And then in the early 90s, they made Jason Goes to Hell, which is pretty much like the final Friday the 13th, and you thought Jason was dead, he's in hell, and it ends with a hockey mask on the ground and Freddy Krueger's razor claws catching it, teasing a Freddy vs. Jason showdown in the near future. However, that near future took a great amount of time. Jason X was made before it, you had New Nightmare by Wes Craven, so Freddy vs. Jason didn't get off the ground and get made until 2003. So where does Freddy vs. Jason start off? Pretty much it's after those timelines, and Springwood no longer remembers Freddy Krueger. The kids who do have nightmares, they put under a coma at a mental ward. After almost all the kids were gone for Freddy's dead, the adults decided to take some action, and by people not knowing about his existence, they don't believe in him. Hence, they do not give him power, since they no longer believe in him. So basically he finds Jason and convinces him and torments him to go and kill people at Springwood so they would remember it's Freddy Krueger. They're going to think it's Freddy Krueger even though Jason's killed the people. The only catch is that Jason gets out of hand and starts killing more and more people and taking more of the credit, where Freddy Krueger wants to come back. It's like, those are my kills, so he starts taking Freddy Krueger's kills and just killing everybody in the town. So it ultimately results in a Freddy vs. Jason showdown. Freddy has to stop this monster he's let out upon Springwood, or else there's not going to be any victims left for him to feed upon, or dreams to go into. So you get to see Jason just pretty much cause carnage towards all the teens, pretty much like the Friday the 13th films, but as far as Freddy stopping Jason, you get to see more of him torment him through memories and dreams, kind of like the Elm Street films. So you get a blend of both of them in there. Now, that's pretty much what it's about. You have some regular characters that have storylines, but the acting and the writing is not very good in this. And of course, that's to be expected, because the later Elm Street films and the Friday the 13th films, you really didn't care about the characters. At least not as much as you did in the first Nightmare on Elm Street or Dream Warriors. they're pretty much expendable. They're just stupid teens who like to swear, drink, have sex, and then ultimately get killed by it. It's pretty much like the Friday the 13th formula, which I guess if you're a fan of those films, it's not bad, but as a movie, they spend a lot of time with the characters, and that makes it difficult to have bad writing and bad acting with characters that you spend a lot of time with. It slows the film down, and that's mainly the weakest part of the film. The best part of this film easily is Freddy and Jason, and I was expecting something more. Personally, it's an enjoyable film as is, but is it the best film? No. And again, it takes that action approach. I feel like if Ronnie Yu decided to do it like the other two films, they get the Friday the 13th killing spree down pat, but I feel like if they incorporated more of like the dread that Jason inflicts on others instead of it just being like torture porn, and they encapsulated the fear and dread of Freddy Krueger going into people's dreams, they really could have made something special where the both of them are monsters towards a certain set of characters and individuals you actually care and relate to. And I felt like that would have made it a much better movie. But as is, if you expect just carnage, not the best movie ever, just like Halloween fun, people getting killed, and then the last fight, then this movie may be for you. But it's a step down from New Nightmare. It's kind of more in line with Jason, but from New Nightmare, even though it's not the same timeline, it's a step down. And that's sad because this is Robert Englund's last time as Freddy Krueger, and he delivers. He is easily the best part of this entire picture. Freddy and Jason, well, Jason doesn't get to say much, but Freddy really carries this film along with Jason, and they just needed more of them, because the movie is titled Freddy vs. Jason after all. And they spend so much time on these characters you just don't really care about, and I don't know if it's the acting or the writing, but it's not good. It's cringeworthy. And it's like the weaker Nightmare on Elm Street sequels or the Friday the 13th sequels, where it's just like, it doesn't make it very good for a horror film. But it's almost like New Nightmare really kind of went back to basics, kind of like in the way Halloween H2O went back to basics. And then this is like the equivalent to Halloween Resurrection after H2O, and you're like, what the hell happened? It's kind of like the feeling you get after Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge after Nightmare on Elm Street. You're like, whoa. And the same thing, even though it's off topic with the Highlander series, the first one's kind of like standalone, then they make Highlander 2 The Quickening, which just totally does away with everything from the first year. I'm like, what? And then they make a couple of sequels, and an Endgame ended pretty good, and then they make Highlander The Source, and this is like Halloween Resurrection and Highlander The Source, where you're just like, what? But it's a good culmination out of the two film series, but it just need more of the horror element. And I think a part of it is because of the long development process this film took to get off the ground and into the silver screen. Yeah, they really hyped up this film. Freddy and Jason actually dressed up. Robert Englund was there. They went to the WWF, or it's WWE now, wrestling arena, and just promoted the film through like a fighting press conference, and that was wonderful. The build-up and hype to it was really great. It's just a matter of execution and delivery that was a bit off, I feel. And they originally had different endings in mind. Originally, they're going to have Pinhead from the Hellraiser series stop them, and then originally they're going to go in hell, and there is going to be talks of a developed sequel, which they later on made into a graphic novel called Ash vs. Freddy vs. Jason. It was going to have Ash from the Evil Dead series. Now, that would have been epic, but yeah, if you enjoy just mindless horror and fun, you may like this movie. It's a good time waster, but as a fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street series and most of the earlier Jason films, this is kind of a letdown. Now, Jason wins in this, and then it's kind of implied that Freddy wins with a wink. And originally, Ronnie Yu wasn't going to direct the film because in the original script they didn't have a clear winner, and they decided to have Jason win. And then it was Robert Shea's idea, the producer, to have Freddy wink at the audience. So it's still ambiguous, but then it's implied that Freddy won. So I guess it just depends who you're a fan of and who you think won. Personally, I think it might have been Freddy, but still, Freddy losing just bothers me. And I think it was just too much of like a Friday the 13th film without enough of the Elm Street stuff. And again, as I said before, the characters are not very interesting. They're very two-dimensional, and sometimes they're oftentimes very, very, very annoying. Where you're just like, I just wish Freddy or Jason would just kill one of them right now, because they're just annoying me and this is wasting time. And it's just like, oh, what the hell. It's definitely among the weaker set of films with the Jasons and Elm Street films. It's more like the Elm Street sequels, like Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, just type of stuff, and then with like the humor of Freddy's dead. But it was cool seeing the makeup. Jason Voorhees was cool. I liked the Crystal Lake dream sequence stuff. Some of the action between them as far as the fighting was really kind of cool and interesting. Even though it wasn't like a horror film, it was kind of neat seeing them fight that way and Freddy bend the rules of Jason's dreams to inflict pain and get to him, especially with water and drowning him as a kid. That was just a crazy sequence and brilliant acting from Robert Englund. He is so devious as Freddy Krueger. He is Freddy Krueger. That's why the remake didn't work, because Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. And then I liked some of the makeup. He really looks gross. He has like hobgoblin pointed ears and it really looks burnt, and they gave him sharp teeth. They really make Freddy look menacing again, which is one plus I must say for this film. Some of the kills are just brutal. The freaking lady making out with her boyfriend and then Jason folding the bed and breaking him in half was just nuts. Just different the kills and everything. And the gore. It's just that sometimes it was a bit disjointed, and like you didn't really care for the character, especially the main girl. There was a whole backstory of Freddy killing her mother or her father or whatever, and it was just like it just felt a little forced and just like out of nowhere. Like it's not bad. You think you should feel sympathy for a character who's lost a parent, but they just came off as annoying. And I don't know if it's the acting or writing or both. You just didn't feel for them or relate to them. And that's a problem. It's like the Transformers films where you have a good set of characters that the movie's based on, but then the human characters really just bog the film down or just not needed. I feel like this would have been better if you had just a couple of better written characters or actors to portray those characters out of the writing, and then Freddy versus Jason. They should have just been Freddy and Jason. And maybe either working together and then fighting or something. They should have made it more terrifying. You could say, yeah, it's enjoyable seeing Freddy and Jason fight, but like ultimately you get these two horror movie icons with Freddy Krueger and Jason, and you say to yourself, that wasn't really as scary as some of their individual films when they were by themselves, and that really should have been something great, I feel. I feel Freddy vs. Jason was a bit of a letdown for the build-up and hype, and that's the best they could do. I feel like they could have done so much more. But if you enjoy those type of horror films, I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch it or it's the worst film ever. I was just saying it was a bit of a letdown as a fan. So yeah, definitely go check it out if you want to. But for me personally, Freddy vs. Jason does not make the final cut. I give it a 2 out of 5. And that's mainly because of Jason, Freddy, and oh yeah, the wonderful soundtrack. That's the one good thing about this film. Maybe there's a truth to this, that every bad movie has a wonderful soundtrack. There's some great music in this soundtrack. That's actually the best part besides Freddy and Jason. And the rest is just not good. It's just bad. So I give it a 2 out of 5, 5 out of 10, and a D+. That is my grade for Freddy vs. Jason. Yeah, that's all I can really say about this film. I wanted to review Freddy and Jason, but you do get a lot of good Friday the 13th stuff there. Mrs. Voorhees makes an appearance. So much Freddy stuff, but Freddy Krueger only gets 1 kill out of the entire movie. And this is a guy who could kill people when they're asleep in their dreams. There's just so much you could do with that they don't. It's mostly just like a rehash of the live action stuff from Nightmare on Elm Street 2, but with Jason just chopping up people, which is not bad for a Friday the 13th fan. That is what Jason is, an unstoppable force, but I feel like you could have done so much more with the material, and Freddy Krueger especially. That really could have been something special, something different, something terrifying. And as a horror film compared to its predecessors, for both Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street, even with the weaker entries, this was kind of a letdown. So, that is my rating of Freddy vs. Jason. But if you're a fan of that, by all means go watch it. I'm not saying don't watch it. For a horror movie fan, it is an enjoyable time. It's a time waster. But for me, after seeing the previous films, it was a letdown and does not make the final cut at all. But it does have a good beginning. They recap the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street films at the beginning, and the start of it's really good. It's just when it gets more into the human characters again, and with the way they execute some of the stuff between Freddy and Jason, it's when the film goes down. The regular characters are what bring this film down. But Jason is good and quiet as always, and Robert Englund gives his all. That's one thing I could say is that Robert Englund, no matter what the movie is or what Elm Street installment, he gives it his all, 100%, and again, he is Freddy Krueger. So that's just my review and thoughts of Freddy vs. Jason. Tell me what you think about it. You may like it. It's okay if you like it. Let me know what your favorite parts are. Did you like Freddy vs. Jason? What parts did you like? Did it let you down like me? Who do you think won, Freddy or Jason? And what's your favorite Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street series film? Let me know in the comments below, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my other videos. There's going to be so much more Final Cut videos coming this month for Halloween, including all the Nightmare on Elm Street reviews. I'm going to be reviewing, I already reviewed Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, but I'm going to be reviewing starting with Freddy's Revenge all the way to New Nightmare, and then I'm going to review Scream 3, 4, and then Interview the Vampire, Queen of the Damned, and then finally Halloween H2O. So that's all, folks. Yeah, this is the Final Cut with Frederick Lopez, and enjoy, guys.